She was just a waitress, Aria Monroe, her future balancing on a tray of champagne flutes. He was Julian Vance, the millionaire heir to a corporate empire, and his fiancée, Tiffany Hayes, was a woman who mistook cruelty for class. Tonight, at the city's most exclusive restaurant, Tiffany was about to make the biggest mistake of her life. What happens when a glass of ice water, thrown in a fit of rage, shatters a web of lies worth billions? The fiancée thought she was humiliating a lowly server, but she froze, her blood turning to ice, when she finally saw the restaurant's owner. Because she just realized she had performed her act of cruelty in front of the one person on earth she couldn't afford to anger. The smell of l'orangerie was the smell of money. It wasn't the crass, metallic smell of new bills, but the ancient, papery scent of old wealth, a mix of beeswax, imported orchids, and a faint, buttery aroma of truffle that seemed to emanate from the very walls. For Aria Monroe, it was the smell of survival. At 24, Aria was a seasoned veteran of the service industry, which was a polite way of saying she was exhausted. Her feet throbbed, a dull ache that had become her constant companion, radiating from the arch of her foot up to her lower back. She wore the restaurant's uniform, a stark black sheath dress that was elegant but restrictive. With the practiced posture of a dancer, her shoulders back, her chin up, her face a mask of serene neutrality. L'orangerie wasn't just a job. It was the highest-paying service gig in the city, the only one that allowed her to cover the rent on her tiny, beige-walled apartment and the escalating medical bills for her mother. Her mother, Clara, lived in a world of daytime television and pill organizers, her multiple sclerosis a cruel, degenerative thief. Aria was her sole provider, her anchor, and her nurse. This evening was different. The air in the kitchen was electric. Mr. Dubois, the maître d', a man who normally resembled a stressed, pencil-thin heron, looked moments from spontaneous combustion. "Listen, people," he hissed, clapping his hands. "The Vance reservation is in. Table 12, the grand alcove. This is not a drill. I want perfection. Julian Vance is here with his fiancée." A nervous murmur rippled through the staff. Julian Vance was city royalty. The Vances didn't just have money, they were the money. Their name was carved onto museum wings, university libraries, and the tallest skyscraper in the financial district. And, Dubois added, lowering his voice, we have it on good authority that his mother, Ms. Serafina Vance, will be joining them later. The kitchen went silent. Serafina Vance was the true power. She was the unseen owner of l'orangerie itself, among countless other ventures. She was a legend, a recluse, known for her immaculate taste and her utter intolerance for failure. To serve Serafina, Vance was to be judged by a deity. "Monroe," Dubois barked, his eyes landing on Aria. "You're on point. You are the lead for table 12. You're the best I have. Do not make me regret that." Aria's heart did a painful lurch, but she only nodded. "Yes, Mr. Dubois." She spent the next 10 minutes in the staff restroom, breathing. She wasn't just afraid of messing up a wine order. She was afraid of the bill from the neurology clinic sitting on her kitchen counter. She was afraid of the rattling sound her mother's breathing had made that morning. Failure tonight wasn't just embarrassing. It was catastrophic. She checked her reflection. Her light brown hair was pulled into a severe, perfect bun. Not a single wisp dared to escape. Her face was pale, her green eyes wide with a stress that she expertly veiled with a calm, professional veneer. She straightened her apron, took one last shuddering breath, and pushed through the door. She walked onto the floor, a ghost in a black dress, her smile ready, her senses sharp. She was Aria Monroe, the perfect waitress, and tonight her entire world depended on it. The black Bentley purred to a stop, so silent it seemed to absorb the sound of the city around it. Julian Vance, tall and wearing a custom-tailored navy suit, stepped out. He had the easy grace of someone who had never been hurried in his life. His face was kind, his eyes carrying a faint, searching quality, as if he were perpetually looking for something more interesting than his own reflection. Then Tiffany Hayes emerged. If Julian was quiet class, Tiffany was a deafening siren of expense. She wore a crimson dress that clung to her like a second skin, the label instantly recognizable, shouting its price. Her blonde hair was a masterpiece of thermal styling, her nails were long, and her diamonds were spectacular. They were, however, new diamonds. They lacked the quiet, inherited weight of the single pearl earring Serafina Vance was known to wear. "Julian, darling, are you sure about this place?" Tiffany said, her voice a high, polished whine. She linked her arm through his, but her grip was less affectionate, more proprietary. "It's so classic. It's practically a museum. I thought we'd go to Nebula." "Mother adores l'orangerie, Tiffany," Julian said, his voice mild. He checked his watch. "She owns it, actually, and she wanted to meet us here to finalize the seating charts for the gala." Tiffany's smile tightened for a fraction of a second. "Of course, Serafina. I can't wait to see her. We just get along so well." This was a lie. Tiffany had met Serafina Vance exactly twice. Both times the elder Vance had looked at her with the polite, analytical disinterest of a biologist studying a particularly gaudy new species of insect. Tiffany, whose entire life was a carefully constructed facade, was terrified of her. Tiffany Hayes was not old money. She wasn't even new money. She was no money who had, through sheer, ferocious willpower and a talent for social climbing, clawed her way into Julian's circle. Her father was a failed car salesman in Arizona, not a shipping magnate from Boston, as she'd claimed. Every smile, every laugh, every darling was a performance. Marrying Julian Vance wasn't just love. It was the final, unassailable fortification of her new identity. As they walked through the heavy oak doors, Mr. Dubois greeted them with a bow so deep it was almost comical. "Mr. Vance, Ms. Hayes, a pleasure. Your table is ready." The grand alcove. "Thank you, Dubois," Julian said warmly. Tiffany, however, simply scanned the room, her nose faintly wrinkled. "Is the lighting always this dim? It's like a cave." "It's ambiance, madam," Dubois murmured, dying a little inside. Arya watched them approach. She saw Julian's kind eyes and relaxed. She saw Tiffany's scanning, critical gaze and tensed. This was the type of customer she dreaded, the type who didn't want service but submission. "Good evening," Arya said, stepping forward with a small, warm smile. "My name is Arya, and I will be taking care of you this evening. May I start you with some water? We have a sparkling Italian or a still spring from..." "Just water." "Still, with 3 lemon slices, not 2, not 4, and make sure the ice is from filtered water. I can taste the tap." Tiffany snapped, not even looking at her. She was already scrolling through her phone. "Of course, madam," Arya said, her smile not wavering. "And I'll have the same, please," Julian added, giving Arya an apologetic glance. "Thank you, Arya." Arya nodded and retreated. The battle had begun. She hadn't even brought the breadbasket, and she was already failing. The first hour was a minefield. Arya was a phantom. Her movements were economical, silent. She anticipated their needs before they arose. Julian's wine glass was refreshed at the exact right moment. A drop napkin was replaced before it was missed. She was, by every metric, a perfect server. Tiffany, however, seemed determined to find fault. The bread was too dense. The butter was too cold. The lobster bisque, which l'orangerie was famous for, was tepid. "Ma'am, I can assure you it came directly from the kitchen," Arya said softly, her professional mask cemented in place. "Would you like me to have them reheat it?" "Reheat it?" Tiffany scoffed, loud enough for the adjacent tables to pause their conversations. "So it can be rubbery and tepid?" "No, just take it away. I've lost my appetite." Julian sighed, placing his hand on Tiffany's. "Tiff, please, it's delicious. You're just stressed about the wedding." "I am not stressed, Julian. I am simply a person with standards," she shot back, something she clearly wouldn't understand. She gestured at Arya with a dismissive flick of her wrist. Arya felt a hot flush of shame creep up her neck, but she kept her face impassive. "My apologies, madam. Is there anything else I can bring you?" "My water," Tiffany snapped, holding up her glass. "It's empty. Have you been standing there this whole time?" "My apologies." Arya retrieved the chilled pitcher of still water from the service stand. She glided back to the table. Julian was trying to murmur something placating to Tiffany, who was staring at her phone, her face a mask of fury. Arya leaned in, her arms steady, her focus absolute. She tilted the heavy glass pitcher. It happened in an instant. As Arya began to pour, Tiffany just stroked wildly with her hand, not looking up from her phone as she said, "And another thing, Julian, your mother's insistence on lilies." The back of Tiffany's hand connected sharply with Arya's wrist. It wasn't a hard hit, but it was enough. Arya's steady hand faltered. The stream of water destined for the glass missed its mark. A small splash, perhaps 2 tablespoons worth, landed on the pristine white tablecloth. Not a single drop touched Tiffany. Arya froze, mortified. "Oh, madam, I am so sorry." "You clumsy idiot," Tiffany shrieked. The word cut through the restaurant's hushed ambiance like a gunshot. The clinking of silver on china stopped. "You see this?" Tiffany hissed, pointing at the tiny, rapidly spreading dark spot on the linen. "This is a Bottega clutch. It was sitting right there. You could have ruined it. Do you have any idea what this costs?" "Tiffany, it's fine. It didn't even touch you," Julian said, his face flushing with embarrassment. "It was an accident." "It's incompetence." Tiffany stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. She was breathing heavily, her face blotchy with rage. She seemed to relish the attention of the surrounding tables. This was her stage now. Arya stood, paralyzed by professional protocol. She was to apologize and clean the mess. "Madam, I am deeply sorry. It was entirely my fault." "Sorry?" Tiffany laughed, a high, sharp, ugly sound. "Sorry doesn't fix a $5,000 bag. You people are all the same? You think you can just drift through life, making messes for the rest of us to clean up? You're just a nothing, a servant." Arya's blood ran cold. She could feel the stares. She could feel Mr. Dubois hovering 20 feet away, his face pale. She kept her eyes down, focusing on the water spot. "Don't cry. Don't speak. Don't lose this job. Think of Mom." "Tiffany, sit down. You are making a scene," Julian commanded, his voice losing its mildness for the first time. "No, Julian, I am tired of this. I am tired of incompetent, worthless people." And then Tiffany did the unforgivable. She picked up her own glass, the one Arya had just filled. It was heavy with ice and the 3 requisite lemon slices. "You want to see a real spill, sweetheart?" Tiffany sneered. "Let me show you." With a flick of her wrist, she inverted the glass. A deluge of ice-cold water, ice cubes, and lemon slices cascaded down the front of Arya's black dress. The shock of the cold was so intense Arya gasped, a sharp, wounded sound. The water soaked her instantly, plastering the thin fabric to her skin, dripping onto her shoes. An ice cube slid down the collar of her dress, and she flinched violently. The restaurant was utterly, tomb-like silent. Arya stood there dripping, shaking, and utterly humiliated. She looked up, her green eyes wide with shock and brimming with tears she refused to let fall. Tiffany tossed the empty glass onto the table with a clatter. She looked triumphant. "There, now you have something to be sorry about. Go clean yourself up. You're disgusting." Julian was on his feet, his face ashen. "Tiffany, that is monstrous. Apologize to her. Now." "Apologize? To her?" Tiffany scoffed. Arya, fighting to control her shaking, just whispered, "Excuse me, sir. I'll get a towel." She turned to flee. "That will not be necessary." The voice was not loud, but it cut through the silence with the chilling precision of a diamond blade. It came from the restaurant's entrance. Tiffany, who had been admiring her handiwork, let her smug smile falter. She turned, a dismissive look on her face, ready to cut down whoever had dared to interrupt her. And then she froze. Her face, which had been flushed with rage, drained of all color. Her mouth fell open. Her hands, which had been gesturing so arrogantly, dropped to her sides. She looked for all the world like a statue. Standing at the entrance, flanked by a pale-faced Mr. Dubois, was a woman. She was in her late 50s, tall and impossibly elegant in a simple pearl gray Chanel suit. Her silver-gray hair was swept into a flawless chignon, and her eyes, a pale icy blue, were fixed on the scene. It was Serafina Vance, the owner, Julian's mother. But Tiffany Hayes didn't just see her fiancé's mother. She saw the one person on earth who knew her entire life was a lie. Time didn't just stop, it fractured. For Aria, the world was a muffled roar, the feeling of cold water seeping into her bra, the sting of lemon pulp on her neck. For Julian, it was a slow-motion explosion, the realization that the woman he was about to marry was a person of profound cruelty. But for Tiffany Hayes, it was a detonation. The woman at the entrance was not just Serafina Vance, the matriarch of the Vance dynasty. To Tiffany, she was Serafina Blackwood, the Blackwoods of Beacon Hill, Boston. The family her own mother, Maria Hayes, had served as a housekeeper for over 20 years. Tiffany wasn't Tiff, the socialite who summered in the Hamptons. She was Tiffany, the housekeeper's daughter, the girl who lived in the attic rooms, the one who wore the other debutante's cast-off clothes. And Serafina, then a young woman in her 30s and mistress of the Blackwood estate after her aunt's passing, was the one who had found her. Flashback. A 16-year-old Tiffany Hayes, her hair, its natural, mousy brown, is in Serafina's dressing room. It's forbidden. She is holding a locket, a heavy antique gold piece with a star-cut sapphire. She is fastening it around her own neck, admiring herself in the mirror, pretending this is her life. The door opens. Serafina Blackwood stands there. She doesn't yell. She doesn't gasp. She just watches. Her blue eyes are not angry. They are cold with a terrifying, profound disappointment. That, Serafina's voice even then, was like chill steel. Belonged to my grandmother. Take it off, Tiffany, and then you and your mother will pack your things. Tiffany had begged. She had cried. She had lied, claiming she was just dusting it. Serafina had held up a hand. The worst part, Tiffany, is not the theft. It is the lie. You have the heart of a grifter. I will not have it in my house. They were dismissed, disgraced. Her mother, broken-hearted, never fully recovered. Tiffany Hayes had sworn on that day that she would never, ever be powerless again. She would climb so high that no one could ever look at her with that cold, assessing, dismissive gaze. And now here she was, poised to marry the son of the very woman who had exiled her. A woman she hadn't seen in 15 years. A woman she had prayed would never connect Tiffany Hayes, socialite, with Tiffany Hayes, the housekeeper's thieving daughter. But Serafina Vance was looking right at her, and in her eyes, Tiffany saw that same horrifying, complete recognition. The freeze broke. Tiffany let out a small, strangled sound, like a dying bird. Serafina, you're here. Serafina Vance's gaze did not waver. It moved from Tiffany to her son's horrified face, and then finally to the dripping, shivering waitress. Aria, seeing the owner's focus shift to her, felt a new wave of panic. She was the one who had caused the scene. She was the one who was soaked. She would be fired. Her mother... Ms. Monroe, Serafina said. Her voice was surprisingly soft as it addressed Aria. Aria was stunned the woman knew her name. Ma'am? Aria whispered, her teeth chattering. Serafina's eyes took in the soaked dress, the ice cubes on the floor, the tear streaks Aria was desperately trying to blink away. Mr. Dubois, Serafina said, turning her head slightly. Yes, Miss Vance, the maitre d' squeaked. Please escort Ms. Monroe to the staff lounge. Find her a warm robe and a hot drink. And then please call my personal driver. He will take Ms. Monroe home. Aria's head snapped up. Ma'am, I can finish my shift. I'm fine. That was not a request, Serafina said, her voice kind but absolute. You will be paid for your full shift, and for the rest of the week. Take some time. This incident is unacceptable. She then turned her gaze back to table 12, to Tiffany, who was now shaking as badly as Aria. Julian, Serafina said. Mother, Julian breathed. I am so sorry. I had no idea. You, Serafina said, her voice dropping back to its Arctic temperature as she addressed Tiffany. Will come with me, now. Serafina, please, let me explain, Tiffany begged, her voice high and desperate. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a groveling terror. She spilled. You will not say another word in this dining room, Serafina commanded. You have done enough damage to the reputation of my establishment. My office. Now." Serafina turned on her heel and walked toward a private door at the back of the restaurant. She didn't look back, confident she would be followed. Tiffany looked at Julian, her eyes pleading. "Julian, baby, help me. Tell her." Julian just looked at her, his face a mask of cold disgust. "I think you should do what my mother says, Tiffany. I have nothing to say to you right now." Defeated, humiliated, and utterly exposed, Tiffany Hayes grabbed her Bottega clutch from the table and followed the matriarch, walking past the staring, silent diners. It was the walk of a condemned woman. Serafina Vance's office was not in l'Orangerie. It was in the adjacent building, connected by a private soundproofed sky bridge. The walk was silent, the only sound the click-clack of Serafina's heels on the marble and the desperate, stumbling patter of Tiffany's stilettos behind her. The office was like its owner, vast, immaculate, and cold. One wall was a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city, the lights glittering like a carpet of diamonds. The desk was a single, imposing slab of black marble. Serafina did not sit. She stood by the window, her back to Tiffany. "Serafina, Ms. Vance, I am so sorry," Tiffany began, the words tumbling out. "I don't know what came over me. The stress of the wedding, I snapped. It was vulgar, and I know that." "Sit down, Tiffany." The name hit her like a physical blow. Not Tiffany, the name she had built, but Tiffany, the name from her past. Tiffany sank into one of the leather chairs opposite the desk. Serafina turned slowly. Her face was calm, her hands clasped loosely in front of her. "It has been 15 years. You have done very well for yourself. You changed your hair, your wardrobe. You even filed the I off your name. But the heart, it seems, is the same." "No, no, that's not true," Tiffany cried, tears of pure panic streaming down her face, ruining her expensive makeup. "I'm not that girl. I've worked so hard. I love Julian. I really do." "Do you?" Serafina asked, her voice laced with genuine curiosity. "Do you love my son? Or do you love his name? Do you love his access? Do you love the fact that marrying him would mean you would never, ever have to be Tiffany Hayes again?" "I love him," she insisted, but her voice cracked with the lie. "You have been lying to him since the day you met," Serafina stated. "It wasn't an accusation, it was a fact. You told him your father was in shipping in Boston. Your father, as I recall, sold used kayaks in Scottsdale until he was fired for rolling back odometers. You told him you attended finishing school in Switzerland. You attended a community college for 1 semester before dropping out to become a bottle girl at a nightclub in Miami. That, I believe, is where you first began to curate your new identity." Tiffany was silent, her entire body trembling. Serafina had investigated her. Of course she had. The moment Julian had mentioned her name, the moment the engagement was announced, Serafina Blackwood Vance would have left no stone unturned. How did you—" "The name," Serafina said, "was familiar. The face was altered, but the eyes were the same. The eyes of a girl who wants what isn't hers." She paused, walking to her desk. "When I confirmed it was you, I was concerned. But Julian seemed happy. I thought perhaps people can change. Perhaps the humiliation of your youth taught you humility. Perhaps it taught you grace." She leaned forward, her palms flat on the cold marble. "What I saw tonight was not a woman under stress. It was a predator. You enjoyed humiliating that girl. You enjoyed having power over someone you deemed lesser. You are still the girl in my dressing room, Tiffany, just with a bigger, more expensive locket." "Please," Tiffany whispered, the fight gone. She was broken. "Please don't tell him. It will kill him. It will kill me. I'll do anything. I'll apologize to the girl. I'll pay her. I'll buy her a car." "You think this is about money?" Serafina's voice was sharp. "You think you can buy your way out of a character flaw? That girl you threw water on, Miss Aria Monroe? She is working 60-hour weeks to pay for her mother's multiple sclerosis treatments. She has more dignity in her little finger than you have in your entire surgically enhanced body." Tiffany had no response. She just wept. Serafina watched her for a long, cold moment. The silence stretched, filled only by Tiffany's pathetic sobs. I will not, Serafina said finally. Tell Julian. Tiffany's head snapped up, a wild, desperate hope in her eyes. You? You won't? No, Serafina said, because a public scandal is the last thing the Vance Corporation needs. Calling off an engagement 2 months before the wedding? Dragging a housekeeper's thieving daughter into the press? It's messy, and I despise messy. Then what? Then the wedding will proceed, Serafina said. Tiffany stared, confused. It will? Oh, yes, but your life, as you've been enjoying it, is over. Your unrestricted access to the Vance credit lines is frozen, effective immediately. Your wedding, which you planned as a gaudy spectacle, is being scrapped. It will now be a small, private affair at the family estate. Your guest list is to be submitted to me for approval. You will not be Tiffany Hayes, future Queen of New York. You will be Mrs. Julian Vance, a quiet, dignified, and intensely private woman. You will be a shadow. And if I refuse? Tiffany asked, a spark of her old defiance returning. If you refuse, I will not only tell Julian, I will leak your entire sword-sordid history to page 6 myself. I will have you blacklisted from every social circle, every charity board, and every decent restaurant from here to Hong Kong. By the time I am finished, you will not be able to get a reservation at a public diner. Do you understand me? Tiffany nodded, the tears now cold on her face. This was not a reprieve. It was a prison sentence. Good, Serafina said. Now there is one more thing. A new arrangement to ensure your compliance and to make amends for the damage you caused tonight. 2 days later, Aurea Monroe stood in the lobby of the Vance Tower. She was wearing her only presentable suit, a charcoal gray set from a discount store that she had painstakingly ironed that morning. She clutched her resume in a folder, though she had been told not to bring one. Her week of paid leave had been a strange limbo of relief and anxiety. She had slept. She had taken her mother to a doctor's appointment without having to rush, but she was terrified of returning to l'Orangerie. The pitying looks from her coworkers, the fear of another customer like Tiffany. She had been summoned by Serafina Vance's personal assistant for a follow-up conversation. She assumed it was to sign an NDA and be formally fired. Ms. Monroe, Ms. Vance will see you now. Aurea was escorted to the penthouse floor. The office was the same one Tiffany had been disciplined in, but today in the bright morning light, it was less intimidating and more breathtaking. Serafina Vance was seated behind her desk. She smiled, a small, genuine lifting of her lips. Ms. Monroe, please sit. May I offer you a coffee? No, thank you, ma'am, Aurea said, perching on the edge of the leather chair. Ms. Vance, I want to again apologize for what happened. I should have been more careful. Stop, Serafina said, holding up a hand. You will do no such thing. You did absolutely nothing wrong. What you did, in fact, was display a level of professionalism and dignity under fire that I find rare. Aurea blinked, unsure how to respond. Thank you, ma'am. I did not call you here to rehash that unfortunate night, Serafina continued, steepling her fingers. I called you here with a proposition. I have read your file from the restaurant. You've been with them for 3 years. Never late, never a complaint. You listed 2 years of college, studying business administration, before you had to stop. Aurea felt her face warm. My mother's health, ma'am. Precisely. You are organized, you are discreet, and you are, quite clearly, unflappable. These are qualities that I value. Serafina leaned forward. I am in need of a new personal assistant. My current one is retiring. The job is demanding. It involves managing my personal and professional schedules, coordinating with my board, managing my household staff, and other projects as they arise. The salary is 4 times what you are making at l'Orangerie, with full health benefits for you and your mother, effective immediately. Aurea's breath caught in her throat. Her mind reeled. Full benefits. Her mother, the neurology clinic, the new experimental drugs she'd read about but could never afford. Ma'am, I don't know what to say, Aurea stammered. I'm a waitress. I'm not qualified. I am the sole arbiter of who is qualified for my staff, Miss Monroe. I am not hiring a degree. I am hiring a character. Do you want the job? Tears welled in Arya's eyes, but this time, they were not from humiliation. Yes. Yes, Ms. Vance, absolutely, yes. Good. Serafina nodded, her face settling into a businesslike briskness. You start immediately. Your first other project is the Vance Hayes wedding. Arya's newfound joy evaporated, replaced by a cold dread. The wedding? Yes, my future daughter-in-law, as you know, is passionate. I have decided that the wedding needs a more structured hand. You will be the official liaison. All vendors, all schedules, all communications regarding the wedding will go through you. You will report directly to me. Ms. Hayes has been informed of this new arrangement. Arya understood instantly. This wasn't just a job. It was a power play. She was being hired to manage Tiffany Hayes. Her first meeting with Tiffany was the following day, in a sterile conference room. Tiffany was dressed in a subdued beige cashmere set, her face pale and her eyes puffy. The fire was gone. Arya, Tiffany said, her voice a flat monotone. I've been instructed to apologize to you. That's not necessary, Miss Hayes, Arya said, her voice crisp. She was no longer Arya the waitress. She was Ms. Monroe, assistant to Serafina Vance. She held a tablet in her hand. I'm here to review the vendor contracts. Ms. Vance was not pleased with the expense from the florist. Tiffany's eye twitched. The orchids are non-negotiable. According to Miss Vance, everything is negotiable. She has suggested a seasonal alternative. White roses and lilies. Here is the revised proposal, Arya said, sliding a folder across the table. Please have your approval signed by noon so I can cancel the orchid shipment. For the next 6 weeks, this was their dynamic. Arya, armed with the full, terrifying authority of Serafina Vance, systematically dismantled Tiffany's gaudy wedding and rebuilt it as an elegant, subdued affair. She was polite, she was efficient, and she was immovable. Tiffany, trapped, grew more and more agitated. She was a prisoner in the Vance empire, forced to interact daily with the woman she had abused. And that woman now held all the cards. Arya, meanwhile, flourished. Her mother's new medical plan was in place. They had moved to a better, brighter apartment in a building with a doorman. For the first time in her life, Arya wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. Julian Vance was a background figure in this. Arya saw him occasionally and he was always polite, if distant. He seemed stressed, his earlier kindness replaced by a weary resignation. Arya felt a pang of pity for him. He was, it seemed, the only one who didn't know he was marrying a monster. Tiffany, however, was not one to go down without a fight. She was cornered, and cornered animals are dangerous. She began to see Arya not just as her jailer, but as her rival. She saw the way Serafina had come to rely on Arya, the quiet respect in her tone. 1 week before the wedding, Tiffany made her final, fatal move. She cornered Arya by the elevators. This has to stop, Tiffany hissed, her eyes wild. Ms. Hayes, I'm on my way to a meeting. She's trying to replace me with you, isn't she? Tiffany whispered. She hates me. She wants you, a good girl with a sob story, to be her little pet. I am Ms. Vance's assistant. My job is to execute her wishes, Arya said calmly. I can make you rich, Tiffany said, her voice dropping. Richer than she ever will. You're her assistant. You see her emails, her private schedule. I want you to find me dirt, something on her, a business deal, an old flame, anything. I need leverage. You help me, and I will make sure you get a very large wedding gift. Arya looked at Tiffany. The bribe was clumsy, desperate. Ms. Hayes, Arya said, her voice cold as steel. Are you attempting to bribe me into corporate espionage against your future mother-in-law? I'm attempting to help you, you idiot, Tiffany spat. She'll throw you away the second this wedding is over. I'm offering you a real future. Arya stepped into the arriving elevator. I will add this conversation to my daily report for Ms. Vance. Have a good evening, Ms. Hayes. The elevator doors slid shut, leaving Tiffany alone in the hallway, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated hatred. Arya did not just report the conversation to Serafina. She was conflicted. Julian, despite his family's cold power, had always seemed kind. He was being deceived by everyone. He deserved to know what kind of woman he was marrying. She requested a meeting with Julian Vance, bypassing his mother. They met in a small park near the Vance Tower. Julian looked tired, but his eyes were sharp as he listened. Arya recounted the incident in the hallway. Tiffany's bribe, her desperation. "She wants me to find dirt on your mother, Mr. Vance," Arya concluded softly. "She's not just unhappy, she is actively trying to harm your family. I know it's not my place, but I couldn't let you walk into this marriage without knowing." Julian was silent for a long time, staring at the fountain. Arya prepared for him to be angry, to accuse her of meddling. Finally, he turned to her, and a small, sad smile touched his lips. "Thank you, Arya. You've confirmed what I've suspected for a long time." You knew?" "I knew something was wrong," Julian said. "I'm not blind. I'm just patient. I saw her behavior, her obsession with money, her casual cruelty to staff. But I didn't want to believe that it was all an act. The incident at the restaurant, that was the real Tiffany." He stood up. "You've done the right thing. My mother and we need to have a final discussion. Thank you for your honesty." The final confrontation took place that evening. It was not a small, quiet affair. It was in the Vance family penthouse, a sprawling, museum-like space high above the city. When Arya arrived, summoned by Serafina, Tiffany and Julian were already there. Tiffany was sitting on a sofa looking nervous. Julian was standing by the window, a glass of scotch in his hand. Serafina was on a central armchair, the picture of calm. "Tiffany, dear," Serafina began, "Arya has brought a disturbing conversation to our attention." Tiffany's head snapped toward Arya. "You told them? You tried to bribe my assistant into spying on me, Tiffany," Serafina said, "days before my son's wedding." "She's lying," Tiffany shrieked, jumping to her feet. "She's trying to sabotage me. She wants Julian for herself. She's been after him since the restaurant." Arya flinched but said nothing. "That's enough," Julian said. His voice was quiet, but it silenced the room. He walked over and stood in the center of the room. He looked at Tiffany, and all the weariness was gone, replaced by the same cold, assessing gaze she remembered from his mother. "It's over, Tiffany," he said. "Julian." "No, baby, listen to me. She's poisoning you against me." "She didn't have to," Julian said. "You did it all yourself." I can explain. The stress." "Was it stress," Julian asked, "that made you invent a life in Boston? Was it stress that made you lie about your father? Was it stress that made you accidentally delete all contacts from my phone? Who knew you from Miami?" Tiffany froze. Her face went slack. "What? Did you really think I was that stupid, Tiffany?" Julian asked, using the name. "Did you think I wouldn't do my own research?" This was the final twist. Tiffany looked at Serafina, who was watching, impassive. "Mother recognized your name on the engagement announcement months ago," Julian explained, his voice devoid of emotion. "She told me who you were, the housekeeper's daughter, the girl who stole the locket." I was a child," Tiffany whispered. "We didn't care about that," Julian said. "People make mistakes. People can change. I wanted you to have changed. I like the woman you were pretending to be. So we decided to give you a test." He looked at Serafina, who nodded. "The dinner at l'Orangerie," Serafina said, picking up the narrative. "You thought it was just a dinner. But I own the restaurant, Tiffany. It was a controlled environment. We knew you were under pressure to impress me. We wanted to see how you would behave." "Arya," Julian said, gesturing to her, "was not your waitress by chance. Mr. Dubois selected her because she is his most professional, most unflappable employee. We put you in a high-stress situation, and we waited to see what you would do." You set me up," Tiffany breathed, horrified. "We gave you a choice," Julian said. "You could have been gracious. You could have been kind. You could have been decent. When you threw that water on a woman just doing her job, you didn't just fail the test. You showed us exactly who you are." You are still the same girl, Serafina said quietly, full of envy and rage, desperate to hurt anyone you think is weaker than you, just to feel powerful for a moment. Tiffany looked from Julian to Serafina and back again. There was no defense. Her entire world, her entire fabricated life had been a stage, and she had been the only one who didn't know she was auditioning. "Get out," Julian said. It wasn't a yell. It was a simple final command. "Security will escort you from the building. Your belongings from my home will be sent to wherever it is you're from." Tiffany Hayes let out a single guttural sob, a sound of pure, abject defeat. She grabbed her purse and ran from the room, her escape followed by the click of the door as a security guard entered to escort her out of the building and out of their lives. Silence descended. Arya stood unsure what to do. Julian turned to her, his face softening. "Arya, Ms. Monroe, I must apologize to you. We used you. That was not fair." "You were a pawn in our game," Serafina added, her face showing a rare trace of regret. "And you conducted yourself with more honor than anyone in this room." Arya finally found her voice. What happens now?" "Now," Serafina said, standing up, "you get a promotion. The wedding is obviously canceled, which means my schedule is suddenly very, very busy, and I will need a chief of staff, not just an assistant. The job is yours if you want it. It comes with a significant raise and a corner office." Julian smiled. "And area. The Vance Family Foundation manages all our charitable giving. We focus on medical research. I would be very honored if you would agree to join the board to help us direct funding, perhaps for multiple sclerosis research." Arya looked at these two powerful, calculating, and, in their own way, decent people. She had come here as a victim. She was leaving as a partner. "I would be honored, Mr. Vance," Arya said. And for the first time in her life, she didn't just feel safe. She felt powerful. And just like that, Tiffany's carefully constructed world washed away, all because of a single glass of water and the quiet dignity of a woman she tried to break. Arya Monroe didn't just get justice, she got a future. It just goes to show you never, ever know who is watching. Character, in the end, is the one thing you can't fake. What did you think of Serafina and Julian's test? Was it a brilliant move to expose a fraud, or was it a cruel setup that used Arya as bait? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. If you love this story of drama, karma, and sweet, sweet justice, please do us a favor and hit that like button. Share it with a friend who loves a good twist, and most importantly, make sure you subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories like this every single week. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for listening.